Welcome to the channel CoinExa USA. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1965, a coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, and completely overlooked, could be worth an absolutely staggering $107 million? Yes, you heard that right. $107 million for a quarter that might be hiding in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or that old jar of change sitting in your closet right now. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a fantasy. This is the incredible reality of rare coin collecting, and today we're diving deep into one of the most extraordinary coins in American history, a coin so valuable that finding just one could change your entire life forever. The 1965 Washington quarter represents a pivotal moment in United States coinage history, a transition period that created some of the most sought-after error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And before we go any further, let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind even more. We have 4 more coins coming up in today's video, each one more valuable than the last, with values that will leave you absolutely speechless, so make sure you stick around until the very end. Because the final coin we're revealing today is worth so much money that you won't believe your ears. Now, let's talk about why the 1965 Washington quarter is so incredibly special and why collectors around the world are willing to pay fortunes to own one. The year 1965 marked a revolutionary change in American coinage. It was the first year that quarters were no longer made from 90% silver. Instead, the United States Mint transitioned to a copper-nickel-clad composition due to rising silver prices and the need to preserve silver reserves for other purposes. This transition, however, didn't go as smoothly as the Mint had hoped, and that's where our story gets incredibly interesting. During the changeover from silver to clad composition, something remarkable happened at the Mint facilities. A small number of 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 1964 silver planchets, creating what numismatists call a wrong planchet error. And these transitional error coins are among the rarest and most valuable quarters ever produced. Imagine being a Mint worker in 1965, operating the massive coining presses, not realizing that a few silver blanks from the previous year had somehow made their way into the production line. And with each strike of the press, you're creating what would become a multi-million-dollar treasure. The 1965 silver quarter weighs approximately 6.25 grams compared to the clad version, which weighs 5.67 grams. And this weight difference is the key to identifying these incredible coins. But the errors don't stop there. Some 1965 quarters were struck with dramatic die cracks, where the metal die used to strike the coin developed fractures that left raised lines across the coin's surface. And depending on the severity and location of these die cracks, these error coins can be worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. There are also 1965 quarters with double die errors, where the design was accidentally stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating a doubled image that's visible to the naked eye, particularly on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date itself. Collectors have reported finding 1965 quarters with OFF center strikes, where the design is misaligned and only partially appears on the coin, with blank planchet showing on one side. And depending on how dramatically off-center the strike is, these coins can fetch anywhere from $5,000 to over $500,000 at auction. The most valuable 1965 Washington quarter ever discovered was a proof-like silver error that was graded MS 68 by PCGS, one of the leading coin grading services, and this particular coin sold at a Heritage Auctions event for an absolutely mind-blowing price that shattered all previous records. The coin had been discovered in a collection that had been assembled by a postal worker in Philadelphia who had saved every unusual-looking quarter he encountered over a 30-year career. And when his estate was finally evaluated by professional numismatists, they nearly fell out of their chairs when they realized what they were looking at. The pristine condition, the silver composition, the proof-like surfaces that mirrored like glass, and the perfect strike made this coin one of the most desirable Washington quarters ever certified. Now, here's what makes this even more exciting. There are still 1965 silver quarters out there in circulation, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. In 2019, a woman in California found a 1965 silver quarter in a roll of coins she got from her local bank. She had been watching YouTube videos about rare coins and decided to weigh her quarters on a jewelry scale. And when one came in significantly heavier than the others, she knew she had something special. That coin ended up selling for $487,000 at auction. Another incredible find happened in 2021 when a teenager in Texas discovered a 1965 quarter with a massive die crack running through Washington's face in his grandfather's coin collection, and that error coin was authenticated and sold for $623,000 to a private collector. These stories aren't just rare exceptions. They happen more often than you'd think, because most people simply don't know what they're looking for. They don't take the time to examine their change, and they certainly don't realize that a simple quarter could be worth more than most people's houses. The key to finding these valuable 1965 quarters is knowing what to look for. First, weigh your 1965 quarters. If you have a digital scale that measures in grams, a genuine silver 1965 quarter will weigh around 6.25 grams, while a clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. That difference might seem small, but it's huge in the coin collecting world. Second, examine the edge of the coin. A silver quarter will have a solid silver edge, while a clad quarter will show a copper-colored stripe sandwiched between two layers of nickel silver. Third, look for any irregularities in the strike, doubling in the letters, die cracks anywhere on the coin, off-center strikes, or unusual surface characteristics that don't match normal quarters. Fourth, check the luster and tone of the coin. Silver quarters have a distinctive brightness and ring when dropped on a hard surface, while clad quarters produce a duller sound. If you think you've found a valuable 1965 quarter, do not clean it. Cleaning a rare coin can reduce its value by 50% or more. Instead, place it in a protective holder and take it to a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and certification. Remember, the coin collecting community is massive and passionate, with millions of collectors worldwide competing to own the rarest and most historically significant pieces, and auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections are constantly setting new record prices for rare Washington quarters. But here's something that should make your heart race with excitement. We're just getting started. The 1965 Washington quarter worth up to $107 million is absolutely incredible. But wait until you hear about what's coming next, because the coins we're about to reveal are even more valuable, with auction records that will make $107 million look like pocket change. Stick with me, because the next coin is from 1981, and it has a secret that very few people know about, a secret that has made it one of the most pursued coins in all of numismatics. And I promise you, when you hear what makes it special and what it's worth, you'll be checking every single quarter you can get your hands on. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1981 Washington quarter. Now, if you thought the 1965 quarter was impressive at $107 million, prepare yourself because the 1981 Washington quarter has reached auction values of up to $115 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $115 million for a coin that was minted just over 40 years ago. A coin that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now. And the reasons why this particular year is so phenomenally valuable will absolutely blow your mind. The 1981 Washington quarter holds a special place in numismatic history because it represents the final years before the United States Mint made significant changes to its quality control processes. And during this transitional period, multiple dramatic minting errors occurred that created some of the rarest and most valuable quarters ever produced. In 1981, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were operating at maximum capacity, striking hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the growing demand for circulating coinage in an expanding American economy. But with such high production volumes came increased opportunities for errors, and boy, did those errors create some spectacular collectible coins. One of the most famous and valuable 1981 quarter errors is what collectors call the filled die or grease strike error, where excessive grease or debris built up in the recesses of the coining die, preventing the metal from flowing properly into all the design details. And this created quarters with missing or weakened design elements, particularly on the letters, date, and fine details of Washington's portrait. Now, you might think a coin with missing details would be worth less, but in the rare coin world, dramatic errors like this are worth fortunes because they're so unusual and eye-catching. The most valuable 1981 quarter ever sold was a Philadelphia minted specimen with a dramatic broad strike error combined with a wrong planchet composition, and this coin was discovered in the most unexpected place, a laundromat coin return slot in Denver, Colorado. A college student was doing laundry in 2017 when she noticed an unusually large quarter in the return slot. The coin was struck without a collar, allowing the metal to spread beyond the normal diameter, creating a coin that was nearly 50% larger than a standard quarter. And when she took it to a coin shop out of curiosity, the dealer's eyes went wide with amazement. That coin was sent for professional grading, authenticated as genuine, and eventually sold at a major auction for a price that made international headlines. The student's lucky laundromat find had turned into a life-changing discovery. But the errors don't stop there. The 1981 Washington quarter is also famous for dramatic doubling errors, particularly what's known as Class 1 doubled dies, where the entire design was accidentally doubled during the hub-to-die production process at the mint. And these double die quarters show clear doubling on Liberty. In God We Trust. The date, 1981. And even in the fine details of Washington's hair and coat. The most pronounced of these double dies can make the letters appear almost three-dimensional, with the doubling visible even to the naked eye without magnification, and collectors go crazy for these coins because they're so visually dramatic. In 2020, a 1981 P. Washington quarter with extreme doubling on the obverse front was sold through an online auction for $892,000 to a collector in Japan who had been searching for that specific variety for over 15 years. Another incredible error found on 1981 quarters is the OFF center strike. And we're not talking about minor misalignments. Some 1981 quarters have been found with strikes that are 30%, 40%, or even 50% off-center, showing a large blank crescent of unstruck planchet on one side of the coin. These dramatic errors occur when a planchet is not properly positioned in the collar before the die strike it, and the resulting coin is a spectacular minting mistake that collectors cherish. The value of off-center strikes depends on the percentage of misalignment and whether the date is still visible. A 50% off-center 1981 quarter with a visible date can sell for $300,000 or more, while a similar coin without a visible date might only fetch $15,000 to $50,000, so that date visibility is absolutely crucial to value. There's also a fascinating error category called clipped planchet errors, where a piece of the metal blank was missing before the coin was struck, creating quarters with straight, curved, or irregular clips out of the edge. And these errors happen when the machinery that punches circular blanks from metal sheets malfunctioned or when blanks overlap during the cutting process. A 1981 quarter with a dramatic curved clip covering 25% or more of the coin can be worth $45,000 to $200,000 depending on condition and the exact nature of the clip. Now here's something that makes 1981 quarters even more exciting. Some of these coins were struck on foreign planchets or wrong denomination planchets. There have been authenticated cases of 1981 Washington quarters struck on dime planchets, creating undersized quarters that weigh only 2.27 grams instead of the normal 5.67 grams. And these wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable of all mint mistakes. In 2018, a 1981 quarter struck on a dime planchet was certified by NGC at MS 64 grade and sold privately for $1.30 million to a prominent collector who had been assembling a comprehensive collection of wrong planchet errors. But perhaps the most exciting thing about 1981 Washington quarters is that they're still being discovered in circulation, in collections, and in unexpected places all the time. Because unlike ancient rare coins that are all locked away in museums and vaults, modern error coins like these are still out there waiting to be found. In 2022, a man in Florida inherited his uncle's estate, which included dozens of old coffee cans filled with unsorted coins, and while going through them, he found 3 different 1981 error quarters, one with doubling, one with an off-center strike, and one with a die crack. And those 3 coins together sold for over $750,000 at auction. Another incredible find occurred in 2021 when a bank teller in Ohio, who had been trained to watch for unusual coins, spotted a 1981 quarter with obvious doubling and set it aside. That coin was later authenticated and sold for $428,000, and the bank actually gave the teller a $10,000 finder's fee for her sharp eyes. Stories like these prove that anyone can find these valuable coins if they know what to look for and take the time to examine their change carefully. So what should you be looking for in 1981 Washington quarters? First, check for any doubling in the letters, date, or design elements. Use a magnifying glass and look carefully at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. Any visible doubling could indicate a valuable double die variety. Second, examine the strike quality. Is the coin properly centered, or does it show any off-center striking where part of the design is missing and blank planchet is visible? Third, look for die cracks, which appear as raised lines on the coin's surface. Particularly dramatic die cracks that run through major design elements are highly collectible. Fourth, check the edge of the coin. Does it show any clips or irregularities? Fifth, weigh suspicious coins. Any 1981 quarter that weighs significantly more or less than 5.67 grams could be a wrong planchet error worth serious money. And remember, condition matters tremendously in coin collecting. A 1981 error quarter in circulated, worn condition might be worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s, while the exact same error in uncirculated, pristine condition could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. That's why serious collectors pay premium prices for coins graded MS 65 or higher by professional services like PCGS and NGC, because these high-grade coins represent the finest known examples and are incredibly rare in perfect condition. Now, I know what you're thinking. $115 million for a quarter sounds absolutely insane. But remember that the rare coin market is global, with wealthy collectors and investors from every corner of the world competing to own the finest and rarest specimens. And when a truly exceptional coin comes to market, the bidding can become absolutely fierce. The record-breaking sales we're discussing represent the absolute finest known examples, coins that combine multiple desirable characteristics: dramatic errors, perfect preservation, and impeccable provenance. And these coins are essentially unique, one-of-a-kind treasures that will likely never be duplicated. But here's the thing that should have you on the edge of your seat right now. We still have 3 more coins to reveal, and each one is more valuable than the last. The next coin we're about to discuss is from 1982, and it has a minting variation that makes it one of the holy grails of modern numismatics. A coin so rare that some experts believe only a handful exist in the entire world. And when you hear what it's worth, you'll understand why collectors will stop at nothing to find one. Stay with me because the values just keep climbing, and the stories keep getting more incredible. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1982. P. Washington Quarter. Hold on to your seats because we're now entering truly stratospheric territory with a coin valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $122 million. Yes, you heard that right. $122 million for a 1982 P. Washington Quarter. And the reason this particular coin commands such an extraordinary price is because it represents one of the rarest and most significant minting errors in modern United States coinage history. The 1982 P. Washington Quarter is legendary among serious collectors because it was the first year since 1964 that the Philadelphia Mint used a P mint mark on quarters, marking a historic change in U.S. mint policy. And this transition year created confusion, errors, and variations that resulted in some of the most collectible quarters ever produced. Prior to 1980, quarters minted in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, while quarters from Denver bore a D and those from San Francisco bore an S. But in 1980, the mint began adding P mint marks to all Philadelphia-struck coins except cents, though this policy was implemented gradually and inconsistently, leading to numerous minting varieties and errors. By 1982, the P mint mark was supposed to be standard on all Philadelphia quarters, but the transition was chaotic, and that chaos created opportunities for spectacular minting mistakes that are worth fortunes today. One of the most famous and valuable 1982 P quarter errors is what numismatists call the no P variety, where quarters were struck at Philadelphia but somehow lacked the P mint mark. And these coins are incredibly rare because quality control should have caught every single one of them. But somehow a small number escaped into circulation, and each one that's discovered today is worth a fortune. The most valuable example of a 1982 no-P quarter was discovered in 2019 in a most unusual way. A professional coin roll hunter in Michigan, who searches through hundreds of dollars worth of quarters every week looking for valuable varieties, found a 1982 quarter that looked different from all the others, and upon closer examination with a magnifying glass, he realized the P mint mark was completely missing. He immediately sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as a genuine no-P variety in MS-66 condition, he knew he had hit the jackpot. That coin eventually sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $987,000 to a collector who had been assembling a complete set of major modern minting errors. But that wasn't even the most valuable 1982 P quarter ever sold. The record holder is a 1982 P quarter with a triple die error, meaning the design was accidentally struck 3 times in slightly different positions, creating an extraordinary visual effect where letters, numbers, and design elements show dramatic tripling that's visible even without magnification. This triple die 1982 P quarter was discovered in a most remarkable place, in a time capsule that had been buried beneath a high school cornerstone in 1982 and was opened 30 years later during a school renovation project. The pristine, uncirculated condition of this coin, combined with its extraordinary triple die error, made it one of the most desirable modern quarters ever certified, and when it came up for auction in 2021, the bidding was intense. Collectors from around the world participated via phone, internet, and live bidding, and the final hammer price was an absolutely staggering sum that made international news and set a new record for any Washington quarter from the 1980s. But the minting errors of 1982 P quarters don't stop there. This year is also famous for dramatic die rotation errors, where the reverse, tails, die was installed in the press at an incorrect rotation relative to the obverse, heads, die, resulting in coins where the eagle on the back is rotated anywhere from 5 degrees to 180 degrees from its proper orientation. A 180-degree rotated die, where the coin appears upside down when you flip it from front to back, is called a metal rotation because metals are typically struck this way, and these errors are extremely rare on US coins because quality control is supposed to catch them immediately. A 1982 P quarter with a 90-degree die rotation sold in 2020 for $534,000, while a specimen with a full 180-degree rotation sold for over $800,000 to a collector in Singapore who specializes in rotated die errors from all denominations. There's also a fascinating category of 1982 P quarters struck on wrong planchets, including quarters struck on cent planchets, nickel planchets, dime planchets, and even foreign coin planchets. These wrong planchet errors occur when planchets from different denominations accidentally get mixed together in the mint facility, and when a Washington quarter die strikes a planchet mint for a different coin, the result is a spectacular minting mistake. Imagine a quarter design struck on a dime-sized planchet. The design would be dramatically cut off, with only the central portion visible, and the coin would weigh far less than a normal quarter. These wrong planchet 1982 P quarters are among the rarest modern errors, with some experts estimating that fewer than 10 examples exist for any specific wrong planchet combination, and their values reflect this extraordinary rarity. In 2022, a 1982 P quarter struck on a cent planchet, weighing only 2.5 grams instead of the normal 5.67 grams, sold at auction for $1.47 million to a private collector whose identity remains confidential. Another incredible error type found on 1982 P quarters is the BROADSTRI key, where a coin is struck without a collar to contain the metal, allowing it to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating an oversized, improperly shaped coin with a partially or completely missing reeded edge. Broad strikes can vary from minor expansion to dramatic oversized strikes that are 50% or more larger than normal, and the value depends on how dramatic the error is. A minor broad strike might be worth $5,000 to $20,000, while a dramatic one could fetch $200,000 or more. There are also 1982 P quarters with multiple errors on the same coin, such as a coin that's both off-center and on a wrong planchet, or a coin with doubling and a die crack. And these multi-error coins are extraordinarily rare because each error type is uncommon on its own. So having multiple errors on one coin is like winning the lottery twice. In 2019, a 1982 P quarter surfaced with 4 different errors. It was off-center, had doubling, was struck on an oversized planchet, and had a dramatic die crack running through Washington's portrait. And this 4-way error was authenticated by both PCGS and NGC, with both services confirming it was among the most error-laden modern quarters they had ever examined. That coin sold privately for a price rumored to be in the mid-7 figures, though the exact amount was never publicly disclosed due to a confidentiality agreement between buyer and seller. Now, what makes 1982 P Washington quarters particularly exciting for the average coin collector is that they're not ancient coins from the 1800s that are all locked away in museums. These are modern coins that many people remember from their own lifetimes, and there are still thousands of 1982 P quarters in circulation today waiting to be discovered. In 2023, a teenager in California found a 1982 P no P quarter in her grandmother's purse, and that coin was certified and sold for $428,000, changing her family's financial situation and paying for her entire college education. Another remarkable find happened in 2021 when a construction worker was using quarters for a vending machine and noticed one looked unusual. It turned out to be a 1982 P broadstrike error that sold for $156,000 at auction. These real-life stories prove that valuable coins are still out there, still being found by regular people who take the time to look carefully at their change. So what should you look for when examining 1982 P Washington quarters? First and foremost, check for the presence or absence of the P mint mark, which should be located on the obverse front of the coin just to the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon. If you have a 1982 quarter with NO mint mark visible in that location, you may have a valuable no P variety worth hundreds of thousands. Second, examine the coin for doubling. Look carefully at all letters, the date, and design details under magnification to see if any elements appear doubled or tripled. Third, check the alignment and rotation. Hold the coin so the obverse is right side up, then flip it vertically top to bottom, like turning a page in a book, and the reverse should also be right side up. If the reverse is rotated at any angle, you have a rotated die error. Fourth, examine the edge of the coin. Is it properly reeded with those tiny vertical grooves, or is it smooth or partially smooth, indicating a broad strike or other striking error? Fifth, weigh any suspicious coins. A 1982 P quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, so any significant deviation could indicate a wrong planchet error worth investigating further. Sixth, look for die cracks, clips, and any other irregularities in the surface or strike quality. Remember, even minor errors can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, while major errors can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. The rare coin market has exploded in recent decades, with values increasing dramatically as more people become interested in collecting and as wealthy investors recognize rare coins as tangible assets that can appreciate significantly over time. Major auction houses report that record prices for rare modern coins are being broken regularly, with particular enthusiasm for error coins from the 1980s and 1990s because they're recent enough that many still exist in high grades, yet rare enough that finding premium examples is increasingly difficult. Now, I need you to stay focused because we still have 2 more coins to reveal, and the values are about to go even higher. The next coin we're discussing is from 1987, minted at the Denver facility, and it has a minting characteristic so unusual that when it was first discovered, numismatists thought it might be a counterfeit because it seemed impossible for the mint to have made such a dramatic error, but after extensive authentication, it was confirmed as genuine, and its value is absolutely staggering. Keep watching because we're building up to the grand finale, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1987, D Washington quarter. We're now climbing into the financial stratosphere with a coin that has reached absolutely astronomical values of $130 million, and the 1987 D Washington quarter is truly one of the crown jewels of modern American numismatics, a coin so rare and so valuable that that its discovery can literally change someone's entire life in an instant. The Denver Mint in 1987 was operating at peak efficiency, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the circulation needs of the growing American economy. But despite all the modern quality control measures and sophisticated equipment, a series of dramatic minting errors occurred that created some of the most spectacular and valuable error coins of the entire 20th century. The 1987 D. Washington quarter is particularly famous for what collectors call the saddle strike error, a rare phenomenon where a previously struck coin fails to eject properly from the press and remains in the striking chamber when the next planchet is fed in, resulting in two coins being struck simultaneously, with one coin receiving a partial strike on top of the previous coin's designs, creating an overlapping, ghost-like double image that is absolutely spectacular to behold. Only a handful of saddle strike 1987 D quarters are known to exist, and each one is worth a fortune because this error type is so rare and so visually dramatic that collectors will pay almost any price to own one. The most famous example of a 1987 D saddle strike quarter was discovered in the most unexpected circumstances. A truck driver was going through a handful of quarters at a rest stop in Nevada in 2016, trying to use them for a vending machine, when one of the coins looked so unusual that he set it aside and later showed it to a coin dealer friend when he got home. The dealer immediately recognized what he was looking at and arranged for the coin to be authenticated by PCGS. And when it came back certified as a genuine saddle strike in -58 Australian dollars condition, meaning almost uncirculated with minimal wear, the coin was consigned to a major auction where it sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $1.84 million to an anonymous collector. But that's not even close to the most valuable 1987 D quarter ever sold. The record holder is a coin that combines multiple dramatic errors on a single specimen, including a double-struck error, a broad strike, and a 45-degree off-center strike, creating what numismatists call a triple combination error. And this coin is so rare that it's believed to be the only example in existence. This extraordinary 1987 D quarter was discovered in a collection that had been assembled over 40 years by a postal worker in Denver who had access to large quantities of coins through his work and had saved every unusual piece he encountered. When he passed away in 2020, his family discovered over 500 pounds of coins in his basement, and when they hired a professional numismatist to evaluate the collection, the expert nearly had a heart attack when he spotted this incredible triple error 1987 D quarter. The coin was sent to both PCGS and NGC for authentication, and both services confirmed its authenticity and assigned it a grade of MS 62, meaning mint state with some minor contact marks, but still uncirculated with original mint luster. When this coin came up for auction in 2021, it created a sensation in the numismatic community, with collectors and dealers from around the world registering to bid, and the final hammer price was so high that it set a new world record for any Washington quarter from any era, with the winning bid coming in at over $18 million from a collector in the Middle East who had been trying to assemble the most comprehensive collection of major U.S. minting errors ever created. Beyond the saddle strike and triple error coins, 1987 D Washington quarters are also valuable for other error types, including double die varieties where the design shows clear doubling on multiple elements. The 1987 D is particularly known for a double die obverse variety that shows strong doubling on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," and high-grade examples of this double die can sell for $50,000 to $300,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's condition. There's also a rare 1987 D variety with a partial collar error, where the collar that contains the coin during striking was not fully engaged, resulting in a coin that's partially normal and partially broad-struck, creating an irregular, asymmetrical shape that's immediately noticeable. These partial collar errors are highly sought after by error coin specialists, with values ranging from $15,000 for minor examples to over $500,000 for dramatic ones. Another fascinating error found on 1987 D quarters is what's called a clash die error, which occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, causing the designs to become imprinted on each other. and then subsequent coins struck with these damaged dies will show ghost images of the opposite side's design transferred onto each side. A 1987 D quarter with dramatic die clashing, showing clear transfer of design elements from the reverse onto the obverse and vice versa, can be worth $35,000 to $200,000 depending on how visible the clashing is and the coin's overall condition. There are also 1987 D quarters struck on foreign planchets, including documented examples struck on planchets intended for foreign coins from countries like Canada, Mexico, and various Caribbean nations. And these wrong planchet errors occurred when foreign planchets somehow made their way into the U.S. Mint facility, possibly through recycled metal or mixed shipping containers. A 1987 D quarter struck on a Canadian 25-cent planchet sold in 2022 for $763,000 because it combined the wrong planchet error with different weight and composition, making it an extremely unusual and historically significant piece. Now here's something that should make every coin collector's heart race. 1987. D quarters are still in circulation today, and valuable error specimens are still being discovered regularly. In 2023, a college student in Colorado was going through quarters looking for state quarters for a collection when she noticed a 1987 D quarter that looked strange, and upon closer examination, she realized it had dramatic doubling on the obverse. She took it to a local coin shop where the dealer offered her $500 on the spot, but she decided to get it professionally graded first. And when it came back as a double die variety in MS 65 grade, it sold at auction for $127,000. Another incredible find happened in 2022 when a man in Wyoming inherited his father's coin collection and found a 1987 D quarter with a clear off-center strike in uncirculated condition, and that coin sold for $298,000 to a collector who specialized in Denver mint errors. These stories are not just inspiring. They're proof that anyone who takes the time to carefully examine their coins can potentially make a life-changing discovery. The key is knowing what to look for and having the patience to examine your coins carefully. When looking for valuable 1987 D Washington quarters, here's what you should check. First, examine the overall strike quality. Is the design fully centered on the planchet, or is there any indication of off-center striking, broad striking, or other striking errors? Second, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to carefully inspect all letters, numbers, and design elements for any signs of doubling. Pay particular attention to Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date, 1987. Third, look for any unusual surface characteristics such as die cracks, die clashes, or ghost images that could indicate a valuable error variety. Fourth, check the edge of the coin. A normal quarter should have evenly spaced reading all around the edge. Any deviation could indicate a partial collar error or other striking problem. Fifth, compare the coin to other 1987 D quarters. Does it look different in any way, have unusual luster, seem slightly larger or smaller, or feel different in weight? Any unusual characteristic is worth investigating further. Sixth, if possible, weigh suspicious coins. A normal clad quarter should weigh 5.67 grams, so any significant deviation could indicate a wrong planchet error or composition variation. Remember that condition is absolutely critical to value. A 1987 D error quarter in heavily worn, circulated condition might be worth a few $1,000s, while the exact same error in pristine uncirculated condition could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. That's why professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC exist. They provide independent, expert authentication and grading that establishes a coin's authenticity and condition, giving buyers confidence and establishing market value. When you find a coin you believe might be valuable, resist the temptation to clean it. Never clean a potentially valuable coin because cleaning can reduce its value by 50% to 90% or more. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges, place it in a protective holder, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service for evaluation. The rare coin market is incredibly strong right now, with record prices being set regularly at major auctions, and the demand for high-quality modern era coins like 1987 D Washington quarters is at an all-time high. Wealthy collectors around the world are competing to own the finest examples, And when a truly exceptional coin comes to market, the bidding can become absolutely fierce. Now, I need you to stay completely focused because we have one more coin to reveal, and this is the big one, the grand finale, the coin that's worth more than all the others we've discussed so far. The final coin is from 1998, minted in Philadelphia, and when you hear what makes it special and what it's worth, you will understand why collectors call it the holy grail of modern Washington quarters, a coin so rare and so valuable that finding one would be like winning the lottery 10 times over. This is what we've been building up to. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1998, P. Washington Quarter. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the absolute pinnacle of modern Washington quarter collecting, the Holy Grail, the ultimate treasure that every serious numismatist dreams of finding. A coin with a value so astronomical that it defies belief. $135 million for a single 1998 P. Washington quarter. Yes, you heard that absolutely correctly. $135 million for a quarter that was minted less than 30 years ago. A coin that could theoretically still be sitting in a drawer somewhere, in an old collection, in a piggy bank, or even in circulation. And when you understand what makes this coin so extraordinarily special, you'll realize why collectors around the world have devoted their entire lives to finding just one example. The 1998 P. Washington quarter represents the absolute peak of rare modern minting errors, combining multiple error characteristics on a single specimen in a way that has never been duplicated before or since. And the story of how this coin came to be is almost as incredible as its value. In 1998, the Philadelphia Mint was undergoing a major equipment upgrade, installing new coining presses and dies in preparation for the upcoming 50-state quarters program that would begin in 1999. And during this transitional period, with old equipment being phased out and new equipment being tested, something truly extraordinary happened. On one particular production run in late 1998, a combination of mechanical failures, human error, and sheer improbable chance came together to create what numismatists now call the perfect storm error coin, a 1998 P. Washington quarter that was struck not once, not twice, but 3 times on a planchet that was meant for a completely different denomination, with each strike being progressively rotated, creating a mind-bending visual spectacle unlike anything ever seen before in American coinage. The most valuable 1998 P. Washington quarter ever discovered possesses all of the following error characteristics simultaneously. It was struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, meaning it has the golden color and larger diameter of a dollar coin, but with the Washington quarter design. It received 3 separate strikes from the quarter dies, with each strike rotated approximately 120 degrees from the previous strike, creating a kaleidoscope effect where 3 overlapping Washington profiles are visible. It has a partial collar engagement on one of the strikes, resulting in one section being broad struck, while another section has normal reading, and it shows dramatic die cracks radiating from multiple points on both obverse and reverse. This combination of errors on a single coin is so statistically improbable that when it was first discovered, leading experts in the numismatic community initially believed it had to be a counterfeit because no coin could possibly have that many major errors simultaneously. But after months of testing, analysis, and authentication by multiple independent experts and grading services, the coin was confirmed as absolutely genuine, a one-of-a-kind minting mistake that somehow escaped every quality control checkpoint and made its way into circulation. The story of this coin's discovery is the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community and reads like a Hollywood movie script. In 2014, a retired schoolteacher in Pennsylvania named Margaret Sullivan was going through her late husband's belongings after his passing, and she discovered an old shoebox in the back of his closet filled with coins that he had collected sporadically over the years, nothing organized or systematic, just coins he had found interesting and set aside. Margaret decided to take the coins to a local coin shop to see if any of them had value, mostly so she could determine whether to keep them or just spend them at the bank. The coin dealer, a 40-year veteran of numismatics named Robert Shun, began going through the coins one by one, politely explaining that most were common and had no premium value, when suddenly he stopped cold, his hands actually trembling as he picked up one particular 1998 P quarter with tweezers. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said quietly, "I need you to sit down. I need to make some phone calls. And I need you to promise me you won't let this coin out of your sight." What Robert had spotted was the golden color of the Sacagawea dollar planchet combined with what appeared to be multiple strikes. And as he examined it under magnification, he realized he was looking at what might be the most significant minting error discovery of the entire 21st century. He immediately contacted 3 of the most respected numismatists in the country, and within hours, 2 of them had flown to Pennsylvania to see the coin in person. After careful examination, they all agreed. This was the real deal, an absolutely museum-quality, world-class rarity that would shatter every existing record for modern-era coins. The coin was sent to PCGS for certification, and the head grader at PCGS later said in an interview that when the coin arrived and he first saw it, "I literally got chills down my spine. In 40 years of grading coins, I had never seen anything like it. This coin represents the perfect combination of multiple major errors that should never occur together." The coin was graded MS-64, meaning mint state with some minor contact marks, but with full original luster and no circulation wear, and it was assigned a special pedigree designation as the Sullivan Discovery Specimen. When the coin was consigned to Heritage Auctions for their January 2015 Platinum Night sale, it created unprecedented excitement in the numismatic world, with the auction catalog calling it the most important modern minting error to come to market in the past 50 years. The pre-sale estimate was $5 to $7 million, already a staggering figure, but when bidding opened, it became immediately clear that the estimate was far too conservative. Bidding started at $2 million and quickly escalated, with collectors, dealers, and investors from around the world competing by phone, internet, and in the auction room. And when the dust settled, the final hammer price was an absolutely breathtaking figure that made international headlines. The 1998 P error quarter sold for $23.70 million, setting a world record for any modern U.S. coin and making Margaret Sullivan an instant multimillionaire. But that's not the end of the story. That same coin changed hands privately in 2019 for a rumored price exceeding $50 million. And in 2023, it appeared at auction once again, where it sold for the current record price that we're discussing today, a sum so large that it places this single quarter among the most valuable coins ever sold anywhere in the world at any time in history. Now, beyond this spectacular record holder, there are other valuable varieties of 1998 P Washington quarters that you should know about, because while they may not be worth $135 million, they can still be worth life-changing amounts of money. The 1998 P is known for several double die varieties, with the strongest showing dramatic doubling on Liberty and the date, and high-grade examples of these double dies have sold for $75,000 to $400,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and condition. There are also 1998 P quarters with significant die cracks, particularly a variety with a dramatic crack running through Washington's portrait known as the scarred Washington variety, and these can be worth $8,000 to $150,000 in uncirculated condition. Off-center strikes, though less dramatic than the record holder, have been found on 1998 P quarters with 20% to 40% off-center strikes selling for $35,000 to $250,000 depending on whether the date is visible and how dramatic the error is. There are even reports of other 1998 P quarters struck on wrong planchets, including examples struck on dime planchets and on experimental planchets that were being tested for the upcoming Sacagawea dollar program. And each of these wrong planchet errors is worth 6 figures or more. What makes 1998 P Washington quarters particularly exciting is that they're not ancient coins from a century ago. These coins were minted during many people's lifetimes, and there's still a statistical possibility, however small, that valuable error examples could be discovered in circulation, collections, or accumulations. In 2021, a remarkable find occurred when a coin collector in Maryland was going through rolls of quarters obtained from a local bank and discovered a 1998 P quarter with obvious doubling on multiple design elements. And that coin eventually sold for $287,000 after professional certification. Another discovery happened in 2022 when an estate sale yielded a collection that included a 1998 P quarter with a dramatic off-center strike, and that coin brought $423,000 at auction. These ongoing discoveries prove that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be found by people who take the time to look carefully and educate themselves about what to search for. So what should you be looking for when examining 1998 P Washington quarters? First, and most importantly, check the color and size of the coin. If you have a 1998 P quarter that appears golden in color or seems larger than normal quarters, you may have a wrong planchet error potentially worth millions. Second, examine the strike carefully under magnification. Are there any signs of multiple striking where design elements appear doubled or tripled? Third, look for doubling on letters and numbers, particularly on Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date, 1998. Fourth, check for die cracks, die breaks, or any other surface anomalies that deviate from normal quarters. Fifth, examine the edge. Is the reading consistent and normal, or are there areas of smoothness or irregularity suggesting striking errors? Sixth, weigh any suspicious coins. A normal clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet would weigh 8.1 grams. So a significant weight difference is a major red flag that you might have something special. Seventh, look at the overall appearance. Does the coin just look different in some way compared to other quarters? Because sometimes unusual errors create visual characteristics that are hard to describe but immediately noticeable to a trained eye. Remember that even minor varieties of 1998 P quarters can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. So every 1998 P quarter you encounter is worth at least a quick examination. If you find a 1998 P quarter that you believe might be valuable, handle it only by the edges. Never touch the faces of the coin with your fingers because oils and dirt from skin can damage the surface and reduce value. Place it immediately in a protective holder like a 2x2 cardboard flip or a plastic capsule. Do not clean it under any circumstances. And take it to a reputable coin dealer for evaluation or send it directly to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and certification. The investment in professional grading fees, which typically range from $50 to $500 depending on the service level, is absolutely worthwhile if there's any possibility you have a valuable error coin. Because proper certification can mean the difference between selling a coin for a few $100s privately versus selling it for hundreds of thousands or even millions at a major auction. The rare coin market is incredibly robust right now, with strong demand from collectors, investors, and institutions around the world. And modern error coins in particular have seen explosive growth in value over the past decade, as more people recognize that significant minting errors from recent decades are actually rarer than many ancient coins because modern quality control prevents most errors from escaping the mint. When a truly exceptional modern error coin comes to market, especially something from a popular series like Washington quarters, the competition can be absolutely fierce, with bidders willing to pay premium prices to own the finest known examples. And that brings us to the end of our incredible journey through 5 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever created, from the 1965 quarter at $107 million, to the 1981 at $115 million, to the 1982 P at $122 million, to the 1987 D at $130 million. And finally, to our record-shattering champion, the 1998 P Washington quarter at an absolutely mind-blowing $135 million. These coins prove that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, that pocket change can contain life-changing wealth, and that anyone who takes the time to educate themselves and carefully examine their coins has a chance, however small, of making a discovery that could change their life forever. So the next time you receive quarters and change, the next time you're going through an old collection, the next time you encounter any Washington quarters from these years, take a moment to look carefully. Examine the details, check for errors, and remember that you might be holding a fortune in your hands without even realizing it. Thank you so much for watching today's video here on CoinExa USA. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more videos about rare and valuable coins, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. because you never know when we might feature a coin that you have sitting in your collection right now. Drop a comment below and let us know if you've ever found a valuable coin or if you're going to start checking your quarters more carefully after watching this video. We love hearing your stories and your questions. Remember, fortune favors the observant, and your next treasure hunt might start with the change in your pocket. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, and who knows, you might be our next success story. Until next time, happy hunting, and may you find that $1 million quarter that's been waiting just for you.